All right, here we go. Part 2. So part 2 is more of like a visual display of what I'm talking about, and to give you some practical ways you can do this too. Now, back in the day, I used to be in some of the old telekinesis forums, and I could get stuff to wobble, but I realized it was going to take me so long to get anywhere. Because if I had gone at it pretty hard for a year straight, well, I did it a couple times. One time I did it for a year straight. The other time I would do it for a couple months. Then I'd back off. Then a couple months, then I would back off. But I told myself that if I keep trying this and I can't unlock my car door, then I probably wasn't going to pursue it for a long time, if ever again, right? So it's since I don't have any videos about telekinesis, you kind of know how that went, right? I mean, that was then and not now, and I've done a shit ton more now than I did then. But some of the hand techniques that they had were actually pretty decent, and they can be useful here because we've talked about using our hands to connect to or at least to put them near the tree and to feel the tree out, and so you can start to kind of get a feel with that already. Now I have this. It is something I would turn into a gateway of Cthulhu. I have one of my own. This is for Etsy though. But I have a purpose for actually using this. Is that when I put my hands, you can use both hands if you want to feel it, to feel around it, to feel inside of it. You know, feel the different energies in there. You know, if I don't want to send it in there like with like a sword hand or something like that to make it more of a, I almost said oppressive process. So maybe that's where my mind went with that. But to make it more of a forceful process, then I can just put my hands near it like the tree. I can use one or both. Just pick up my senses. And I'm not going to get quite as much out of this outside of the manufacturing process, right? So this is resin. Not a living thing. And that's partially why I chose it, actually. I mean, it's a cool thing, but it's partially why I chose it. If I were to use this is a coconut half, right? That I bought on the island of Molokai. I use it for my daily incense offerings. For example, this one's to, not every day, but almost every day. I light some incense, one of these sticks, and offer it to the dead and to those who keep them. And I do that daily, right? I give almost a daily offering. I don't have to give it. Sometimes I skip it. Sometimes I give 2 or 3. I've done a lot of work for them, and they've done a lot of work for me. I should be fair and say that too. And so I think that you would get a different feel from this, even though it's part of the coconut. You would get different vibrations from it. And it'd be kind of up to you. Well, it would be kind of up to your skills and where you're at now, or maybe what you're just better at picking up, to what you would get. Would you get that it was a coconut? Would you get that it was from the island of Molokai? I mean, would you get that it was near a rainforest trail, right? I don't know if rainforest is the right word, but it looked like it to me. There's a specific nature trail that this was taken from the area around. So, I mean, I would say the beach, but all the islands in Hawaii are islands, right? It's part of the name, right? And so they have beaches all over the place. But you might pick things up like that. Maybe you'll get the smoothing process. Maybe you'll get flashes of what somebody was cooking for dinner while they were sanding it down or something. I don't know. But you would get something different from that, right? Than you presumably would from this resin item. Now, if this resin item had been in the hands or had some things done to it or sent into it, maybe like a time bomb of sorts, if you will, then that would be a different scenario. And that would change the signature compared to another one considerably, right? At least it should if they were competent. But something like this here might get awfully complicated. Right? It's one of the coolest finds I had on Goodwill. Got it on Goodwill. Try to get it close. Really nice painted, made of duck and peacock feathers. I assume it's duck. It might be goose or swan or something. I don't know. Some white bird. But as you can see, you know, this would present something differently, whether it's the feathers themselves, the wood used in the processing of it, right? You know, you can see the fluff on the back from the feathers. Or is it the peacock feathers on the tops here, right? So this would be a very different thing to try to decipher, right? But another thing you can do is you can practice if you want to. The other thing I was going to talk about was the area stuff, right? Area stuff, and this is object, and it's really no different. But our focus is different, and the establishing of our focus is a little bit different. So let me go ahead and move these. Okay. And we're just going to use this flat baking stone. Okay. This mimics the lot my property's on, right? You know, it's partially rectangular, largely squarish on the sides. So it's a pretty good way of trying to describe different techniques. So we're going to be standing here in the center of our space. We'll use a wine cork for it, because why not? Right? And I would encourage you to experiment with different widening or shortening techniques. And this shouldn't take an intense amount of concentration, right? This should not detract from your rituals, right? It does take some practice. There's nothing that says that after you've done it, if you want to make sure, you can call a trusted entity to go and validate either your results, which you're getting back, or to level the area for you. If you want to do that, I mean, if you're going to balance it elementally, then by all means, you do you, right? I've done them too. When the paths that I choose to follow calls for it. You know, like with the Kazdea. Kazdea said I was using an elemental circle. I did the elemental circle, right? So you can look at it kind of like this. This is our focus, right? This pen right here is our focus. And you can either focus on what's ahead of you and turn yourself around this way, 360, right? And then just see what you pick up on, kind of like the radar approach, right? Or you can use an area blast like this, or the four corners, and then turn yourself four corners, right? To get the cardinals and the diagonals, right? You can do it that way, whatever like makes sense to you. If it makes sense that your field of vision is this way, and so you want to do it that way, fine. You do what you need to do, and then just turn yourself 90 degrees. Bam, turn yourself 90, and then the last 90. And then you come back to wherever your starting point is, right? You can do it that way. If you're doing the passive approach, it's kind of like more like this, right? But everywhere. If you can't do everywhere, then don't do everywhere. It's the same with this. It's the same with the cork and the pen. If you can send it out to the front, do that. If you could only do it to the front, then I guess you need to turn yourself this way, turn front, right? But in time, you should be able to do it to the front. And then if you want to, literally tell yourself to hold that there, and then put your focus towards the back, right? And then to one side, and then the other. And then pretty soon your presence is there. If that makes that easier, presence is on all quadrants of the entire space, right? If that makes more sense for you, then do it that way. And you may need to experiment with it. I literally used to have to do the sonar, and then I would turn, because I could do about it wasn't quite 180, right? It was pretty close to 180 at first, because I looked at it like peripheral vision, right? So I could said, okay, well, I could still feel to the sides like that. So I had pretty close to 180. And then I would just literally turn myself around. So even though I had still covered some of that area, and I did this, I was active with it the whole time. I literally just kept it up and swept my focus when I first did it. And then I sent it out like the sonar. Eventually, I would just kind of put myself into the four corners, my mind in the four corners, so I was encompassing that whole space. So there are a lot of different evolutions to how I personally did this, and how you do it is going to kind of be up to you, right? There's nothing that says that you can't use like dowsing rods if you wanted to even. I can't say that I've used them a lot. I'm getting ready to, well, as part of my Chinese studies, right, with the Maoshan, which I'm not initiated with yet. I kind of want to do leave some of the stuff for them, for some of these experiences. So like I tried to use dowsing rods in the past, but that was like as a teenager. And that's going to be a different experience than say now, right? So I kind of want to leave some of that stuff for them. But that doesn't mean that you have to, right? So I would encourage those active processes rather than the tool-based process, though, because we can always go and use tools, right? But nobody can take away having the ability to use these underlying processes just with us, right? If I go to a hotel for work, if I have to travel, I don't need to bring tools with me. I might bring my statue of Pazuzu, because I usually have a tendency to put do not disturb, and then if somebody chooses to violate that, I have Pazuzu sitting out there in the open. Like as soon as they open the door, you cannot miss my bloody statue of Pazuzu sitting here. I'll get it. It's great. My bloody statue of Pazuzu. He's my traveling companion. You know, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I know some of the blood's fading a little bit now. I better get back to it. Yeah, some of the blood's fading a lot, but you know, that's what awaits them when they open that door. They see Pazuzu. Anyways, I'm a minimalist with tools. It's not that I do believe they can work. I do. It's just I'm an energetic practitioner, and I know I can always go and find a way to use the tools, but I don't know that if I only use tools, you know, if I were to only use tools, and I don't know that I would have the skills to really do it without them. And that's kind of what I'm saying, is that you can find ways to use all these other things, all these tools, and if you, this is my opinion, and it's not going to be popular, and it's not meant to be mean or degrading at all. It's just, I think you should be able to do things without tools, right? Maybe not 100%, maybe not as effectively. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying if you can only do things with tools, then let's get the skills to do them without it, because once you put both of those together, do you see what I'm saying? So, all right, so that's all I'm really going to say about that, because it's not a popular opinion, and that's fine. It's not going to be, and I have a lot of unpopular opinions. It's just I can usually back them up with experience, right? In fact, if I can't, then I usually tell you that I can't. But there is one thing I wanted to show here real quick. Oh, maybe you can see it. It's partially why I have this nifty little lamp, which I have a video on. It's probably not easy to see. It's turning. It uses the heat from the light bulb to turn. It's a carousel. Anyways, Helios Unbound, right? It's a good book, right? I had a thread at one point in another place for this. When I saved the thread off, we were worried about the forum getting that forum getting closed due to those poor women being killed in the United Kingdom. It didn't get saved off properly, so I don't even have my notes from that. But there is the reason for bringing it up is there is a really good exercise in there. Hopefully I This was heavy tool-based approach with a lot of it. I probably didn't. Yeah, see my notes here. Yeah, I did it. It does the quarters, does all sorts of stuff. I should have looked this up beforehand. So they do have a consecration of space, the God form working, the actual God, you know, the way that the actual magicians do God forms, not the prayers, spell becoming magician. I was looking for, there's a really good sun exercise in here where you're pulling energy in from the sun. And that can be, yeah, week 4, inscribe a red candle top down with, yeah, see, you can do all, I did that. There's a really good solar exercise in there where you're drawing in the sun like our eyes kind of like draw into this light almost. And so if you want to get started, it was a little tip. If you want to get started with learning to pull energy in, because you have to be able to feel it to pull it in, right? And it does take some practice and stuff like that. You can start with the sun, because while Paley's Grimoire is an energetic manual, it's an introduction to energetic practices. You know, you can do everything energetically, and you won't be able to do the really heavy stuff that I do with a. You don't have physical forms of that, right? They aren't there. But anyways, it is an energetic practice manual for all sorts of stuff. Everything from, you know, starting sense energy to finding different ways to use it. And one of the things I said in there was, I talked about, I think it was called relieving stress. I think it was called relieving stress, but it had to do with Hi'iaka and connecting to the grass, you know, the trees, the areas, and using the blades of the grass to cut off all negative energetic attachments that we have, right? It also talked about cycling that energy in and cycling it back to the earth, because if I'm taking something from the earth, I'm going to give it back to the earth, right? But with the sun, it's a little bit different, right? Because the sun always gives, right? The sun always gives. It doesn't expect anything back, right? With nature, we kind of think of nature as cycles and cyclical in all of its forms: birth, death, you know, decay, rebirth. But with the sun just gives it to us, and yes, it's on a one-way collision to burning itself out in time, but don't think I'll be there for that. Certainly not in this body. So I would encourage you to start thinking of the sun, and once you start feeling the sun, you can do it with the moon too, but the sun is easier because it's out longer most times of the year, right? Step outside, go for a walk, and then start to pull that solar energy into you, right? Or start surrounding it with you to help burn off energetic attachments and things like that. Because that, I say pull it into you first, because that starts to get the seeds flowing of pulling energy in, like if I was pulling it in from the statue and then giving some back, right? So that way I'm not taking more than I'm giving. And that could just be me as a Taoist. I guess I felt that way before I declared for Taoism, right? So I prefer to if I take that, I still prefer to give, and I don't mind giving more than I take, but there should be some kind of balance, right? But with the sun, it's a little bit different. The sun is always there for us, if you will. I prefer the night. I prefer the dark. I prefer the cool. You know, I prefer the moon. But the sun is pretty amazing, and it's a really easy way to start getting used to pulling from natural sources for your benefit, and then start putting it into use, right? So you're starting to get that mind-body connection that you will need to pull it in and then direct it, right? But that's enough for this video. I think it started to get a little bit longer, so I was starting to go off on some other tangents, and I want to keep these in kind of small, concise chunks. And we will. We still have to go over the subconscious stuff, because that's actually a really important part. I'm not prepared to do it tonight because I want to have a better idea of what I want to say, but that's going to be coming up because I consider it crucial to my practice, right? Maybe not as important as the energy stuff, Once you start putting those things together, though, the energy work, the subconscious, and being able to connect it with and use it, the other pillar is the relationship with spirits, respectful relationship with the spirits that are productive, right? But those two alone can get you really freaking far, right? Really far, because there are a lot of people with great relationships with spirits. They may not have the other skills, right? For whatever reason, maybe they don't want them. But I'm assuming if you're going to sit here and listen to me talk for however long, there's at least a passing interest, right? So, all right, that'll be coming up here soon. Definitely not tonight. I don't want to sound like a complete idiot. And I need to keep myself on track, which means I have to keep them concise. So, all right, about to get off tangent again. So, there you go. Have a good night.